It's getting late.
My name is Monique Reynolds Blanche. I'm 21 years old and I have a love and passion for Afro hair and hairstyles. Gowden magazine quoted that the UK black hair industry is worth a massive £88 million. As well as this, they said that black women spend on average 3 times the amount that white women spend on hair care. However, despite the masses of money, we still have to face daily struggles of explaining or justifying our choice of hairstyles. I'm going to be researching the massive industry of Afro hair and why it is so important that black women learn to love their hair. As a young girl growing up in Essex, I didn't particularly love my hair. I never felt like my hair fit in. No matter how many times I pressed over it with a straightener or attempted to dye it, it still didn't look quite like the other white girls' hair. I thought that I would start my research by finding out the physical difference between Afro hair and European hair. So I went to speak to trichologist Samantha Stewart at the Spencer Hair Clinic.
So all hair is the same, the chemical composition of hair is the same. The difference is how the characteristics is how it's formed. So the follicles are different shaped for different hair types, like Asian, Caucasian and Afro. Afro has a slight oval elliptical shape, which means that it's slightly flattened, and the way in which it actually sits within the hair shaft is on a slightly curved pattern. So therefore, when the hair actually grows out, it grows out in twists. And this is what gives it the vulnerability and makes it actually weaker than most hair types. The way in which our outer part of our hair, which is called the cuticle, sits, it has slight curved edges, which means it's very susceptible to when we have sort of weathering, when we have sort of things of rubbing, and we're always told to sort of use like silk scarves and things like that. And it's because the outer part of our hair is more susceptible to being damaged, to being ripped off. And that outer part is what actually protects the core of our hair, which is called the cortex, which is where everything is, all the structure and any chemical reactions that happen within there. So you always need to attempt to keep the outer part intact. Unfortunately with our hair, because it is slightly curved, slightly raised, this means that it's more susceptible to general weathering, to general just sort of rubbing on clothes, rough brushing, anything which will actually tear that off, then expose the middle part. And that's why we will have hair that's slightly drier, because it doesn't hold moisture in, because you don't have that tight cuticle layer to keep the moisture inside. Everything sort of comes out. So therefore our hair's slightly drier than other hair types, and it's just more susceptible to being damaged by what we do to it. The main problems that people come to us with are there are variations. So you'll have your sort of hair structural problems, which are mainly caused by chemicals, thermal, and even manipulation of hair. So you'll find that people will come to you and say, my hair doesn't grow, doesn't get past a certain length, it used to, and this may be because they're actually damaging the actual hair shaft and they're getting continual breakage. And because they're not fully aware that this is happening, they're continuing their chemical processes, they're continuing their heat that they're using, they're continuing the manipulation of their hair, i.e. brushing and combing and rough manipulation of the hair, which is continuing to damage this outer part of the hair, which is the cuticle. And this is actually contributing to their hair breaking rather than not growing. So their hair is growing to their normal length that they are genetically predisposed to have, but they're not maintaining this length because they're getting damaged.
Despite black women having the most fragile hair type, we still take some of the most high-risk hair procedures. Mintel's Black Hair Care Market Report found that 60% of black women still wear relaxers and other high-risk hairstyles. I went to Aquarius Hairdressers, a popular Afro-Caribbean salon in Finsbury Park that has been open since 1975. Part owner and hairdresser Sharon Parry told me about the variety of hairstyles they provide.
There are many different hairstyles because we don't have one type of hair. We have so many. The Europeans only have maybe 3, and we have, according to last records, I think still 33 different types. So you can have so many different types of hair within one family and in one head. So it's quite vast, the different things we can have. There's lots of natural hairstyles, which is it's more acceptable now for us to have our natural hair. So you find more people who do natural hairstyles. They're not bothering to try and conform or look acceptable to go to work, you know, European standards. And then again, some of us have European hair, so-called, you know, what you'd want to call European hair. There's also the chemical styles, which a lot of people are not doing anymore, the relaxers. Sometimes you just fancy another style. You want a short hairstyle, you've got long hair, you put on a wig or you do a weave. So there's many hairstyles. A lot of people use weaves and wigs, I think, because it's more convenient. We're over in England, the water's hard, the weather's not conducive to our skin, so sometimes they do it just so that their hair's protected. It's always nicer just to have your natural hair, but then we're not in our natural climate, so it's a bit difficult, you know?
Clearly, the cold, damp European weather does not tend well to our hair, so we need plenty of products in order to maintain it. Sabina's Hair and Cosmetics in Ilford has been running for nearly 10 years, with their main customers being black women.
Yes, please. Some products is coming from USA, some is coming from China. They provided us all the products. Most famous is why I'm in the shop is Brazilian hair. 200% black people are spending a lot of money. They like to spend the money. They like to change them hairs. In the all people, black people spending more money on the hairs.
Cosmopolitan found that in the UK, black women account for 80% of total hair product sales. According to thinkethnic.com, globally, the Afro-Caribbean hair care market is worth a giant £475 million, with the UK covering 88 million of the total. I thought that it was important that I find out a brief history of the cultural meaning behind Afro-Caribbean hair. I spoke to academic Stacey Balfe.
We have to go back to our history, which it doesn't start with slavery at all, but it was a major moment in our history. We've got so much happen before and we'll have so much happen in the future, but it was for my work anyways, it was one of the main moments when things shifted in a different paradigm that's never happened before. People was loaded onto the boats, the first thing they did was shave their hair off. It could have just been like, you know, oh look, that's a different hairstyle, or have a look at that beforehand. But then once you start demonizing a people's and you're using every marker that you can, which is very much, hair is a really huge marker of a racial identity, then that becomes the end of the ugly scale, and then we've got the beauty. To be beautiful is at the other end of the scale. From different anthropological kind of studies, but also like our own understanding of how we still use our hair to, you know, different styles for different times, different, you know, you can have cornrows when you're younger, and you might have a little something different when you get older. It's got meaning beyond just an aesthetic, and that information, that what was transmitted through Afro hairstyling pre-slavery, pre-colonization, had status, wealth, beauty, rites of passage. There's so many stories, beautiful stories from loads of different lineages about how hair was adorned and styled to create different, you know, different identities for women specifically. Feeling insecure is you know, a luxury that we kind of have now, like, oh, someone's not going to like how I look, or, you know, but if we go a little bit back, it's like, oh, I'm not going to get that job. You go a little bit further back, oh, I you know, if I've got good hair, or if I can pass that test, then I can get into school. If I go a little bit back, oh, I'm not a slave, I'm not owned by somebody. So, you know, if we're talking about in a modern context, it touches our ego type of thing, but if we go historical, we're talking about survival.
Despite hair being a large part of black women's identities, many black women are still made to feel uncomfortable in their workplace in regards to their hair. The tweets show different people's different hair struggles. One reading from Bab Zani: "Someone at work said I look clean when I plaited my afro-ish hair. I asked her to explain if I usually look dirty." I went to chat to Tesney Alexander, who has faced a number of struggles in her workplace, due to her hairstyles.
And we have really strict uniform standards. So your hair, in particular, your uniform, everything has to adhere to strict guidelines. So as part of our uniform, we have to wear a hat. February or March last year, I had a flight to Bangkok, and I remember my friend sitting and labouring for about 12 hours putting my hair in box braids. Once she had finished, it was thick. I mean, I've got thick hair anyway, but when she had finished, it was thick. And I just remember thinking, oh my goodness, this is so long and this is so thick. I don't know how my hat is gonna fit over this. Fortunately, the manager that I had on the flight that day didn't say anything to me prior to boarding the flight. But when we were down route, so once we had got to Bangkok, he said, I'm really sorry, but as beautiful as your hair looks, he's like, you can't have your hair like this to work. You know, and his reasoning in this instance was, if there was a fire on board and you had to put on a smoke hood, you would not be able to get it over your bun, because my bun was quite big, because obviously we have to wrap it up. As I said, your hair can't come past your shoulders. So the bun was really big. Now, I know that could easily have gone over, but to him, he hasn't seen anything like that. And his instant reaction is to what he thinks is the right thing, to make sure that I change my hair from this style into something that he recognises as more socially acceptable.
I asked the black women of Stratford their experiences with their hair at work.
Normally, they are surprised how long you sit down to do braids, especially when you're working with white people that they don't have the experience of this kind of hair. They ask you how long did you sit down for, how much did you spend and stuff. That's the question. They want to know how it's been done and stuff, yeah.
So basically, when I was younger, I grew up in a white place, Austria, and the white kids used to touch my hair, and obviously it's a bit tougher than their hair, so they will touch and like, oh, your hair feels different.
So yeah, so when I'm like at work or if I go to events and stuff, people, they'll comment on my hair, saying that they like it and stuff like that. But one thing I really do hate is when they touch it, and it's a thing where like you don't want to say don't touch my hair because you don't want to be rude about it. So yeah, it's just that really.
At work, a lot of people do encourage me with my hair. They wanna feel it and see if it's soft or hard. It's just afro. That's it.
Due to the amount of prejudice in the workplace, many black women have started their own campaigns. One of the most popular London-based campaigns being Project Embrace. I travelled to Peckham Palms to visit the founder of Project Embrace and natural hair campaigner, Likia Lee. She was running a workshop on healthy hair.
For 2019, the theme for this year is Rip Up the Dress Code. And basically what we're doing is that we're calling on corporate Britain to examine the one-size-fits-all dress code and see how that is discriminating, especially for women of colour who are embracing their natural hair or want to embrace their natural hair in the workplace. The dress code is not really serving everybody. It's not diverse enough to serve everybody. And so it's time to rip it off and start again and make it more inclusive. I have relaxed my hair. I have used weaves and I don't like the idea of it. Personally, for me, the reason why I went natural is because I didn't want to subscribe to a beauty standard that had no respect or regard for me. The beauty standard that's prevalent today is that, you know, you have to have basically European features. From time, African features have always been mocked and ridiculed and laughed at, and because of that, it's stigmatized. And I didn't want to join that brigade, so to speak, or rather I wanted to move out of that brigade because I did join it. And most of us, we join it when we are children, before we have any sense of before we can analyse things. So you see 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds all want, well, not all, but many of them want straight hair. Ever since I started Project Embrace, a lot of mothers come to me and say their daughters as young as 3, some even 2, they can't really vocalise it, but they feel happy when they have a wig or a weave on.
Global market researchers Mintel found that in the UK, that 6 out of 10 black consumers wear wigs, weaves or braid extensions. I spoke to home hairdresser Kathy Johnson, who, unlike Likia, is an advocate for protective hairstyles.
In my opinion, and doing clients' hair, I honestly believe that protective is more popular, just because most of us, we want to spend time on doing our hair and beauty, but we just believe that having protective hairstyles like weaves, extensions, braids, cane rows is just easier. It's just easier for us. And also, I think to a certain degree, it's just got to do with how people receive us. So having like the weaves, it just looks a lot more better. It depends on your preference really, but in the society that we live in, the more straighter your hair is, the more nicer you are. So I think that gives it more of a, straight long hair rather than curly afro kind of hair. So in my opinion, most people will come to me to get their hair done protective, either weaves, extension, braids, because of that.
What I've realised through my research is no matter if we are having natural hair or protective hairstyles, we need to support each other. This is down to what we have been through in the past, the money we have spent, and purely if we don't support each other, how can we expect the workplaces and society in general to support and respect our hair? Not only is it learning to love our own hair, but learning to love other black women's hair around us, no matter the style.
It's getting late. Let me ease your mind, take all that stress away. I'll leave you speechless. Just focus on me. Let your imagination run free. No one can do it like me. Nobody can make you feel like I do. Is it a crime to show you that I need you? Should I call you mine? You know that you want me. Do you like what you see? Cause you're looking at me like you never want me to leave. Oh, all I wanna do is vibe with you, vibe with you. It doesn't get better than this. I wanna vibe with you. Are you feeling me? You know I'm feeling you. Yeah, you know what's good. There's one thing left to do. All I wanna do is vibe with you. Oh, this is what you need. You just have to trust me. Leave me in the driver's seat. Just let me take the lead. You've been taking time on